Hey, welcome to A Game for Your Thoughts. Today we're talking about Metal Gear Solid. So the story follows Solid Snake after the events of the first two games. He has to go to this island in the middle of Alaska to stop this group called Foxhound from using the weapon Metal Gear Rex to go through with their evil plans. There's a few spoiler things in their plan, so I don't want to say what their plan is. But anyways, so Solid Snake has to go in there, figure out what's going on, stop the group, and just figure out what's going on, because there's lots of cool mysteries and intrigue and espionage. I do gotta say though, do you know how hard it was to come up with a summary of this game without getting into spoiler stuff? It was in just like super detail. It was really difficult, and I thought I did a pretty good job, right? As to the overall story of Metal Gear Solid, I thought it was very... As for the overall story of Metal Gear Solid, I thought it was fantastic. They did a great job of starting things out nice and simple. It eases you into the story, but very quickly starts throwing out all these cool new mysteries, characters, and events that change things very drastically. And I thought it was great because it was easy to follow along with, but it was also very cool and interesting to see what would happen next. I was always very intrigued to see what the next big event would be, what cool new character would be introduced, and how they would affect things. It was just all so superbly done that I was fantastic, and I was very intrigued the entire time. And the writing in this game is fantastic. It did a great job tackling some serious issues that are actually still pretty relevant today, and it just did a great job of balancing all the long list of characters and using the manual to kind of help you out, figure out what's going on and who is who and what they are. It's just great. It was just fantastic writing that was so solid that just kept things organized but still led a really cool mystery that was so much fun to follow. The dialogue is so well done that it just is interesting stuff that builds upon the characters themselves and their emotional ties to the situation and what role everyone has to play with the events going on. It was just great dialogue that was just so much fun, and there's also fun little humor thrown in here and there just to kind of keep things not so serious, but it still did a great job of keeping things focused, so you always knew who each person was and what role they had, and also their cool emotional moments. There's lots of really cool characters that just have these cool emotional ties to Snake or the events happening, especially the villain characters. There's a handful of villains that pop up here and there, and they all have really cool and interesting stories that you honestly feel pretty bad for them by the end. There's especially one, the relationship between Sniper Wolf and scientist Hal Emmerich. It's just a cool relationship that plays very well into the story, and it's just a cool emotional thing that is just written so well. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I just thought it was great. I was so invested in it, and it's just neat writing with the relationships and the characters and the events and just the locations. Everything was just so well done. There wasn't a character that felt wasted. Everyone had their moment with Snake, and I thought it was cool as it just sometimes was very touching and just interesting. It was just so engaging story-wise, character-wise, writing-wise, and the cutscenes are so cool. And always something cool is happening on screen, and it's just such interesting storytelling and dialogue, and just, I have nothing but praises about the story. It was seriously one of the coolest things about a game for sneaking around. It was so rad. There is always more to say about a story, but I definitely want to talk about the gameplay, because the gameplay is so very cool, and it's awesome because it's one of the first games of its type. Metal Gear Solid is a fantastic blend of action and stealth, and it's the first game of its type in a 3D console, and they almost nailed it perfectly.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
I do want to thank my partner Gamerware. Gamerware is a fantastic clothing company that is all about gaming. They have a bunch of cool, unique designs that are original, and they're so awesome. Right now I'm wearing the Robot Punk t-shirt. It is a very cool design that I really enjoy. It's very high quality products, and it's for a good price too. And you can save yourself 10% off. If you use the code AGFY10, you can get 10% off your order, and it helps support me in the show. So thank you guys so much, and go and check out Gamerware. They're a fantastic company that's got tons of really cool hats, jackets, shirts, things like that. There's so much to see and do, and they even have customizable jerseys. You can get your name and number put on it. So I'll leave a link down in the description. You can go and check them out. Thanks to Gamerware, and you guys enjoy the rest of the video.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
There are so many factors that play into it, but the biggest things for me were the area design, the tools you have at your disposal, and the sweet stealth mechanics that all add up just to build a really cool stealth action experience. Like I said, the area designs are fantastic as they're all laid out in a very well way where there's not always a direct path forward. It leaves so many options in the player choice to see how you approach each situation in each new room. Like I said, you have so many cool tools and abilities you can use to help you sneak around. They're all used very cool and efficiently, and how you choose to use them is totally up to you. It's just great gameplay that is so well designed and leaves so much choice up to the player. How you go about everything is totally up to you, and it can honestly lead to multiple playthroughs, so you can find cool new ways to approach different situations or find a more efficient way to go through an area, and it's just cool gameplay that's just so tight and so much fun. One of the big things that I really enjoyed is is the sensor array up in the corner. It lets you see where enemies are, where they're looking, and the best ways to go around them. But it's always unpredictable. You never know exactly which way an enemy's going to go. So this game absolutely rewards patience. But the moments when it takes out the sensor array and you have to go in blind and trust your instincts and use the environment to your advantage is so awesome. It lets the player get comfortable, but not too comfortable. It's just sweet design that just is fantastically done and implemented. The attention to detail is phenomenal, as each new area has something cool or interesting to test your skills with. Actually, one of the first areas, you're outside in the snow, and as you walk around, you leave footprints, and you don't think about it at first until one of the guards sees the footprints, and he's like, hey, what's this all about? And then he follows the footprints to track you down. It's just a cool thing like that this game is full of. There's so many new things, and there's always something cool and interesting to test your skills with. Communicating with the people in the game is actually one of the keys to success. I never had to pull up a walkthrough or a guide to help me through a situation because I always could call out people on the codex and get some tip or trick for a boss fight or a specific area or what to do next. It was great as it just let the game do all the work for you, and you had to actually kind of put in a little bit of work yourself. I've never had to really use a manual in a game before, but this time I was constantly flipping through the manual and finding some cool new information or something that might help me out or some ability that I didn't really know I had or hadn't used to that point. It was just cool to use the game's manual to its advantage. The thing I liked about this when calling people on the codex is they didn't tell you exactly what to do. They just gave you subtle hints or new ways to look at the situation so that you could figure it out for yourself. So it made the whole game feel like a giant puzzle that you had to figure out the solutions to and could occasionally get hints to help you along. It was great that the game never specifically gave you the exact thing to do. Certainly if you struggled a lot and really needed help, it would give you a good nudge that would be like, okay, here's a little bit more information. I thought that was great as it just let the game do all the work. Like I said, it's fantastic design that lets the game do some of the work, but lets the player figure out the puzzle. And it's just great as it presents you with the pieces, and you have to figure out how to put the pieces together and make it work to progress. And it's just fantastic game design. This also all applies to the game's fantastic boss fight. Each fight was a new and interesting way on the gameplay, or just some cool new mechanic that was just fun and interesting. And like I said, they all feel like puzzles, and they all have a solution, and you got to figure out. The pieces are given to you, and you just have to figure out how to put them together to beat the boss. And it was great as you could call up the people on the codex and be like, hey, I'm having a problem, what can I do? And they're like, oh, maybe try thinking about like this way. And it was just neat. Each boss fight was so well designed and so much fun. I loved every boss fight because I just didn't know what to expect, and it was always so much fun. There are certainly some of my favorites, and there's one particular that I didn't really enjoy. What I'm talking about is actually the final fight with Liquid Snake when you're on top of Metal Gear Rex. The entire time you've been using cool gadgets and fun little mechanic things to defeat these bosses, but at this point it's a straight hand-to-hand combat fight, and unfortunately the hand-to-hand combat is not very solid, and falling off Metal Gear Rex is a little too easy, and just there's so many factors playing into this fight that just not fun, and it really kills a lot of the pacing too, because this entire game has been paced very well, but I feel like this part hits a huge wall that really kills a lot of the excitement and thrill going into the last bits of this game. And that Liquid Snake fight was just easily my least favorite part of this entire game, but it was a very minor blemish on an overall very awesome experience. Just a moment ago, before I talked about the Liquid Snake fight, I said I had a favorite boss fight, and it's easily the Psycho Mantis fight. I don't want to tell you why I liked it because it would totally ruin the fight, but I do gotta say it plays into this game's meta work very well. And when I say like this meta work, what I mean is it has the player doing things outside of the game to affect things inside the game. And I thought that was so cool because when I figured these solutions out, I was like, are you serious? Like, my wife was over working on some stuff, and like I was playing the game, and I was like super into it, and then it's like blah 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 blah, blah and I'm like, oh, no way, and my wife's like, what? And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but I was just like, I had to do this really cool thing outside of the game to affect the events happening inside the game, or I had to like look on like, I want to tell you some cool things, but I really don't want to spoil them because figuring them out for myself was so cool. And the Psycho Mantis fight is just the prime example of this cool meta gameplay that I just thought Metal Gear Solid nailed so perfectly that it was just always so cool and engaging, and figuring these things out for myself was so much fun. This was also cool because the game loved to call you out on your playstyle. There would be certain events where I'd get in a situation and one of the bosses would be like, hey, I see you don't save often, let's see if your recklessness pays off. And I was like, you're right, I don't save too often. Oh no. It was cool things like that. The game would just kind of call out how you're playing. It's like, ooh, you like to be very aggressive, or you're not very good at sneaking around. And it's like, oh, thanks, I guess. It was just cool how this game really identified the player and just called them out for their certain ways they're playing, and it was just fun to be very self-aware of itself, but also being very like kind of fourth wall breaking. It was neat and cool and interesting things like that. Graphically, this is a PlayStation 1 game, so it hasn't aged perfectly, but still overall it does look and run very nice. One of the coolest things is that the character models don't really have faces, and it's kind of creepy at first, but it's kind of cool because they don't have faces, but so much emotion is played through the voice acting, and I thought that was incredible. You can definitely tell everyone who did voice acting had so much fun with their roles, and it was just a fun development experience because it just plays off in the presentation of the game. Everything is so well designed, and it just seems fun and interesting, and it was great as it made me have more fun, and I was way more engaged, and they really brought it home when they needed to. When things needed to get serious or emotional, they really brought it in, and like the voice actors did a great job of delivering some very emotional lines, and this really helps with the awesome musical score. In the end, I've got to say Metal Gear Solid is one of the most unique and fun gaming experiences I've ever had. You can't get a gaming experience like this anywhere else. While its gameplay and graphics have been improved in future Metal Gear titles, I thought Metal Gear Solid is a fantastic experience that is very isolated for itself and is so fantastic the entire time through. The story is incredible with its fantastic writing, characters, mystery, and just the overall presentation is fantastic. The gameplay is incredible as it's just some solid stealth action gameplay that leaves a lot for the player to choose and decide how you approach different situations. The boss fights are incredible and some of the greatest gaming bosses of all time. While the Liquid Snake fight at the end does kill a lot of the pacing and is just not my most favorite, it does finish with a very satisfying conclusion of the overall game that is just so much fun. And I just love the meta gameplay that this game had. Like I said, it's so much fun figuring these things out when you realize the solution. It's just such a thrill and it's so much fun. I loved every second with Metal Gear Solid except for the Liquid Snake fight. It was so much fun the entire time, and I highly recommend you play this game. Track it down and find a way to play because it is a must-play title and honestly one of the greatest games ever made, and I highly agree with that, and I think you must play Metal Gear Solid. Hey, thank you so much for watching the video. I do appreciate it. If you want to let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about Metal Gear Solid? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to help me out and hit like, subscribe, and the bell to get notified every time I post a new video, that would be fantastic. And if you want to see more of me, I'm over on Twitch at twitch.tv/GameForYourThoughts. I'm streaming there all the time, and I'd love to see you there. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to have an amazing day, and that the key to success is succeeding, and we'll see you guys next time on Game for Your Thoughts.